Hello riding people, going for a ride today, not on this, but on that, by Triumph Street Triple RS. But that's not the reason for the video today. I want to talk about why I gave away two BMW M1000XR Competitions. Well, that sounds a bit actually poetic license. What happened was I had one on order last year, and then I got a speeding ticket and ended up having to speak and grovel to a very nice judge who was very lenient with me, and it made me at the time think about my license, and there was no idea, there was no indication of when the MXR competitions would hit the US shores. It was thought late 2024 if you were lucky to get one, and I decided I'd cancel my order, so I cancelled it. Then this year I was thinking, shall I change my bike, shall I not change my bike? And I was going to keep my Ducati for another year, and I may well do that. But one of my good subscribers, RG, as I call him, Road Glide, he always says life's too short, just buy the damn bike. And it got me thinking about the MXR again, and they're impossible to get hold of. You know, my friend Gordy was hoping to get one by the end of the year. Eric was in the same position, and my friend Steve, another fellow Brit, managed to pick one up. Now, I actually managed to secure another one. It was actually in Huntsville, Alabama, and the deal was basically done. I was happy with the trade price, and I was umming and ahhing. I did some pros and cons list, and I think if I only had one bike or I had several bikes, I would definitely go through with it and I would have bought it. But I really need a practical, comfortable touring machine to go with my fun, lightweight little naked sports bike. And so I decided to ring Eric up, make his day, tell him that one was available, and he managed to pick that up. So today I'm riding with Eric and Steve on their MXRs, get that right, yeah, MXR competitions. And I've already seen it now. Eric dropped his bike, and I have to say it's absolutely stunning in the flesh. The carbon fibre wheels, the carbon fibre bodywork, that beautiful machining that BMW does, the beautiful start up with the M logo. It just looks a very, very cool and exclusive bit of kit. And I know Steve has just had his first service yesterday, and so he's looking to open it up a bit today. He can go beyond the 8,000 revs of the running in period, so he's a little bit excited and giddy. And I must admit, when I saw Eric's one, you know, you see that pre-preg carbon fibre that BMW do so well, probably better than anybody, and it really made me think, had I made a mistake? So did I? Let's find out. All right, M1000XR. See what she's like. Impressions video on the BMW M1000XR Competition. Okay, seat definitely locks you into a position like the old one did, but there's a little bit more room to move around. And yeah, above 8,000 revs, there's definitely power there. The brakes are very phenomenal. Front brake is very strong. There's a lot of agility with the bike for sure. The carbon fibre wheels certainly help with the unsprung weight. Turning from left to right is simplicity itself. It's a very, very lightweight mess. You can see over these crests a lot easier than you can on a sports bike. It makes it a lot easier to ride safely on unfamiliar roads. It's definitely Firmer depression on the gear lever than I expected, and down the box maybe it's will loosen up a little bit with a few miles on the clock. Ride quality is good. Electronic suspension is very, very nice. A little bit fuzzy at higher revs there. You can definitely feel vibes, but they're not numbing my hands at the moment. The Pro Shifter, yeah, down the box is butter. She sings nicely. Yeah, the box really leaks through the gears. First and second's a little bit jerky there. I'm in dynamic mode at the moment. It's just not a particularly nice corner, this. So yeah, definitely launch into a simple kind of riding position, but it is a good riding position for somebody of my sort of height, around the 6 foot mark. This is a horrible double camber, bumpy as well. Electronic suspension does a good job. Power is very strong, ample torque, not quite as brutal as a V4. The bottom mid, but the kind of upper mid to top end, bad bump there, is strong, as you would expect, especially in the low gears, and it's got a very low reciprocating mass. It really wants to spin up very quickly. Those strong brakes, because once you get it above 12,000, things are happening very, very quickly, and I think it can be quite intimidating for an inexperienced rider to ride this, certainly if they're going to use the power and performance. They'll have their moments on such a bike. However, it's kind of a pussycat in terms of handling. Handling is phenomenally good. Tons of grip, and the agility is fantastic. Bars are really nicely placed. They're not too high, they're not too low, just right. I'd say this is almost certainly the quickest cross-country bike you can buy if you if that sort of thing interests you, as that kind of accolade for you. It's quite phenomenal. It's more bike than I need on the road. In fact, it's more bike than anybody needs on the road. But it is good. Good first impressions. I love all this pre-preg carbon. Wait for the guys. Should show up. It is quite a phenomenal looking bike. Very, very attractive. Some machine. Love the whole front end. The colour scheme is awesome. The carbon fibre is lovely, very, very nice. Nah, it's fucking horrible. Oh yeah. So back on the Street Triple RS now, and doing what we normally do, you know, kind of suburban traffic now. Or actually we're a bit more out in the sticks, but we're coming into a town, so we've got to keep speed limits down here, and it's a 35, and glad to be back in the Street Triple RS because it's super nice to ride at these speeds. The MkII is bonkers really. It's like the old Spinal Tap movie, just turn everything up to 11, right? It's the bad bros, gotta give them some respect. Anyway, that was fun, and I can see why Steve loves his, and why Eric will love his when it's unlocked. So back at home now. Apologies that the lighting isn't so good in this room, but just wanted to get down a few extra words post-ride of my impressions. So let's start with the overall impressions. The bike is a bit of an oxymoron in that it is much more agile than I was expecting, super agile, and yet it is phenomenally planted, a bit like a HRC Honda back in the day. So they're almost at odds with each other. And another dichotomy almost is that it's very comfortable, very smooth. It's like a pussycat to ride at low revs, yet when you get it above 12,000 revs, things happen very, very fast on that bike, and you need to be an expert rider with a level head and be very cool, calm and collected, both in your abilities and in your demeanour and disposition when you get up to those speeds, because there's no use being panicky and tense and you're scared of it, basically. Standout features, well, I mentioned the agility and the stability, but also the brakes. The brakes are absolutely, yeah, I think they're the best I've ever tried. Certainly up there with the Street Fighter V4 S, but maybe even better. There must be M50 or better Stylema calipers from Brembo with a great master cylinder, great braided hose, and just a phenomenal setup with bags of fuel and bags of power. And when you get it above 12,000 revs, you find that you need to brake very quickly because you are covering speed and ground very quickly. And they are there. They are just as kind of potentially scary and frightening in that they're, in terms of their strength, as the bike is in terms of acceleration. Now at the bottom end and mid-range, I would say it's just a smidge off, you know, the Panigale and Street Fighter V4S in terms of it doesn't quite have their torque. It almost feels like the V4s in rain mode, and that's not to do it disservice because it has ample horsepower, you know, but it's very smooth and linear. Sometimes that's a good thing because when you're going through twisty bends and stuff, you want that power to be smooth and linear. But at top end, I'm not sure what could walk away from it, to be honest. Nothing possibly on the road. The way it's geared, the way it spins up, the power it makes, it's lightweight, it's ride quality, which is very, very good as well. Quite simply, I would say it's probably, no, it almost certainly is the fastest A to B road bike across country that I've ever ridden. It is phenomenally effective if you want to go fast from A to B across country. So on the negative side of things, the seat still locks you in the same position, but it's not as bad as the old bikes. There's more real estate to move around on in terms of backwards and forwards and left and right. Still very much a sit in rather than sit on bike, and it is a very tall seat height. I think it's something like 33.9 inches, I want to say. So it does feel tall. It's very much an adventure bike in that respect rather than a sport tourer. No bad thing if you're tall. It gives good comfort, and the seat felt comfortable, the suspension felt comfortable, and the bars are really nice actually. They're slightly low, slightly wide, and very flat, and it really helps for counter steering, going quickly from A to B. Let's get to the negatives. The negatives really are that it is still pretty vibey in that mid-range and upper mid-range. I didn't ride it on the freeway at dedicated speeds of around 80, 90 miles an hour, where I hear the vibes are the worst. I did feel vibes, but they weren't nowhere near as intrusive as the M1000R, and nowhere near as bad as the older XRs, in my personal opinion. You still feel some tingles, and it swings and roundabouts. If they got rid of those, the bike would arguably be utter perfection, and then it would be utterly boring because it's perfection and clinical, and sometimes we want a little bit of character, and it just adds a little bit of character and zing. But they're still there. That's the kind of negative. The other negative is carrying luggage. There's no provisions from BMW for luggage capacity carrying, although they do offer a tail pack that's generic that would probably work quite well. Kind of looks a bit like it's hard to describe. It's kind of a rhomboid. It's like a pyramid cut in half, and the bottom half, so like a square with angles at each corner leading up to another square, if that makes any sense. They sell a bag like that you could hook on. Steve actually had just a regular tail pack strapped on underneath the pillion seat, and it looked okay and worked perfectly fine. And also with an SW Motec tank bag, it would be kind of semi-practical to an extent, certainly for day rides and possibly overnight trips. But you start going away for 2 or 3 days or longer, it's credit card, toothbrush, boxers and socks and deodorant. That's about all you're going to be able to take with you, and maybe it'd be worth that sacrifice, to be honest with you, because if for the other 362 days a year you ride, you don't need that luggage carrying capacity, then you're good to go. And therein lies the negatives in the main. Running costs will be quite high. It's a lot thirstier than, say, a Boxer or something like that. You're probably going to get a good 20% less fuel economy on it. The range is still kind of reasonable. I hear it's about 170 miles, something like that. And service costs, I don't suppose will be that cheap. They're every 6,000 miles, and I believe the valves are every 12. But it's pretty accessible bike engine wise to get at everything on face value. Residual values has never been particularly good for the XR models, but this is a little bit more special, a bit more specialized than actually another pro is the specialized bits. The pre-preg carbon fiber that BMW do is the best. I think it's even better than Ducati. And the machined parts, the foot pegs and all the ancillaries is nice, and little touches like the race levers. So the levers themselves fold up if you drop the bike, and the tips are also a sacrificial part that will snap off in an accident. So you'd still have your levers if you did a track day and you dropped it and could still ride it, or you slid out in a slow speed, low side on the road, for instance. So little things like that are nice touches. The bike looks stunning in the flesh, way better than the video or pictures can tell you. It sounds phenomenal as well. It's got a real nice sound for an inline four. I don't really like inline fours generally, but it sounded great, and it's loud without being too loud. So it almost sounds like a kind of race can muffled by, Euro 5 catalytic box. It's still in situ and OEM downpipes. It just sounds nice, a little bit more raughty, but not, annoying. Anyway, overall impressions are, I was more impressed than I thought I would be. It's very planted, very agile, very desirable bike to have. Ample power, both from the engine and the brakes, and quite simply, a very safe bike to ride at insane speeds, and a very insane bike to ride at insane speeds. And if you want the fastest cross-country bike ever, yeah, it's this M1000XR Competition is in a league of its own, I would say. Is it for me? Well, I don't think so, because it would be replacing the Multistrada even, get it right, Richard. Be replacing the Multistrada V4S, but if it was a GS or, you know, the KTM or any of the big adventure bikes, it would be nowhere near as practical, not as comfortable, not as good to up, not as much weather protection in winter. A few of the creature comforts not there, like the GS electric screen, for instance, or the active cruise control on the GS and the Multistrada, for instance, and you know, not as quite rugged looking and beefy as say Pan America, and not as good off-road, obviously, not really made for off-road as you know, a KTM. So it doesn't replace those practical super all-rounder bikes, and probably of the current crop, the R1300GS is the best there, and the Multistrada if you want something a little bit sportier. And if you've already got a sporty naked sports bike, or sports bikes like I had with the Street Triple RS, you need an all-rounder, practical all-rounder to complement that. If I was in Steve's position and had no bike, sure, I would have one, because it satisfies the middle ground. It's more comfortable than Street Triple RS, more real estate to move around, more comfortable in that respect. It's got more power, and is very, very, it's a lot of fun to ride. And, you know, that's a good middle ground compared with that and a big adventure bike. If I had several bikes like Eric, yeah, sure, you know, if it's a need. So I think that the bike is right for them in their position. Steve himself said if he had a Street Triple RS, he just would have gone and bought a GS rather than the MXR Competition, and I totally agree. And equally, if I had an MXR Competition and a Street Triple, I'd sell the Street Triple, because it does a bit of both. It supersedes the Street Triple RS, and it supersedes the big adventure bike if you can only have one bike. So I think that's, if you can only have one bike and you like a sporty ride or a fast bike, yes, that would satisfy it. If you are more on the practical and comfortable side of things with lots of features, you want a GS, or maybe you want the Multistrada, which is kind of in between the two. But interesting day, interesting ride, glad I rode it, and although probably not the bike for me at this point in this stage with my stable, absolutely 100% understand why Steve would want it and Eric would want it. They seem extremely happy with their purchases, and why not? It's the most desirable bike to get hold of this year. It's the most difficult bike to get hold of, and I kind of had 3 opportunities to get one, and I turned them down for various reasons. And was that a mistake? Well, we'll find out over time, but I think in essence probably not. I do value the comfort and practical all-roundness of a big adventure bike, and I do ride all year round, and I do ride long miles, so it makes more sense for more of the time for somebody like me. Anyway, I hope my random thoughts help you understand where the MXR Competition is positioned. Would I buy one over, final question I guess, would I buy one over a standard one? Yeah, I would. I didn't think it would be worth the extra money, but I kind of think it is. It's the kudos, it's the trick bits on it, the machined parts, the carbon fibre, and yeah, the extra power. Sure, you know, you're gonna have a bit of fun with the extra power when you first get it, then you're gonna ride it like a normal bike or like the standard bike without all that extra power, and that's fine too. But just knowing you've got it when you want it is, you know, there's a wet finger in the air in terms of the value of that. But I think if you're really, really into your bikes, you will value that. Couldn't blame anybody for buying a standard bike, couldn't blame anybody for hanging out for an MXR Competition. So anyway, if you've ridden the MXR Competition, let me know in the comments what you thought of it, or if you're lucky enough to own one, let me know how you're getting on with it. Particularly be interested to hear whether you find the vibes intrusive or not over distance. And have a phenomenal summer, guys. All right, sayonara.
Hey you, if you want to become one of the Ride On people, don't forget to subscribe. Ride often, ride carefully, ride on.